HIPAA, but.
Yep.
the
Right,
trend is
exactly.
This way.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
I think it's 5:15.
What clock you
Yep.
going by?
The one on the computer.
Oh,
You have 14, Linda?
15 minutes.
No, there you go. Well, you're in charge tonight.
I don't know. I like to be on time. All right, my phone says 15 too, so.
There you go.
All right, our timetable says it's 5:15, so we'll go ahead and call the December Board of Aviation Commissioners meeting to order. And the first order of business is to approve the November minutes, which everybody should already have a copy of.
I make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
And I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as written. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Okay. Next order of business is the November claims. Anything you'd like to bring up, Nick?
Nothing too super exciting on claims this month, unless you guys have specific questions about anything. The only thing that I will add to the claims, when you guys are done, I do have a contract that I need to bring to the board. Merry Christmas.
Bye, Joe.
Are there any specific questions that I can entertain before going over this contract with the board?
No, I make a
have none.
motion to accept the claims as presented.
And I will second that also.
Okay, been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so moved. Okay, we'll need the Accent Aviation Group thing in there too.
Oh.
Okay, he's just.
Sorry. Ascent Aviation Group for $25,719.83.
Okay. And does the board go
Yeah.
along with that
Yes.
amendment? Okay. All right. So any other questions for the claims? Okay. Recognition of visitors is next, but pretty much the only people we have here is the board, so we'll move on. Engineers report. Mary, you're up already.
Hi, guys. So for the runway program, the final inspection meeting occurred on November 20th. John was there for the board, and they have gone through a majority of their punch list items. One of the items that is still needing to be done is installation of the edge light tags that basically identify each edge light along the runway. They have just been awaiting the delivery of those. And then the other item will be occurring in the springtime, and that is the installation of the full application of paint for the paint. So that will include what we call reflective media. So when it is dark out, you will be able to see those lights, or see those pavement markings better with light on them. Right now, with the half application, there's no reflective media in it. So all that work will occur in the springtime when it's a little warmer and when the paint can cure a little bit better. Also with the runway project, so last month you all approved change order number 2. And when we were finalizing that change order and getting the signatures, we realized that there was a small mathematical error. So there was the wrong unit price in an item So it was, last month, you approved a deduct of $4,157.15. This change order that is revised, number 2, is still a deduction for $1,644.63. It's the same change order from last week that incorporates, or last month, excuse me, that incorporates the additional grade and soil stabilization that was needed for runway project. But it just has the math corrected on it. So that will need a board action to approve that. And I apologize that you're having to approve it more than once.
Okay. How many board actions do we have for tonight? For,
Just 2.
just 2? Okay.
Yep.
All right, well, we can wait, do them both same time then. All right,
Okay.
sorry, go ahead.
Yep. The next board action is for the approval of payment for the contractor, Finken Brown, for their pay request number 3, and the amount of $326,000, $929.84. And we have reviewed their pay request and find that it's all in order. They will still have one more pay request after this, probably actually 2 more pay requests, one in January and then one in springtime for the paint work and retainage. So.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, make a motion to approve the change order number 2 and the dollar amount of $1,644.63, and the Fenton Brown pay request number 3 for $326,929.94.
84.
84.
Gene, I think you ought to say revised change order number 2.
Revised, yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. Been moved, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Pay request for the change order number 2 and change order number 3 has been approved.
Thank you. Moving on to the obstruction mitigation, the power lines. We have been working with the FAA on the grant application. They had some comments on the application that we provided. We submitted the revised application, I believe it was last week. Actually, right before this meeting, we received an email from Victor with the FAA asking to have a meeting with us. I'm not for sure what all he wants to talk about, but he asked for our availability to meet next week. I let him know that I would be on vacation. I am free tomorrow, so we'll see if we are able to get this application finalized. This application, if you remember, you approved that application for signature last board meeting in November, but the FAA has, and the dollar amounts have not changed. The FAA has just had some comments on sections that we're filling in information in. According to Victor, all of the information is there. I just want it pulled into certain sections a different way. So it's a little frustrating, but hopefully we can get that all squared away and get that application to start sooner rather.
Okay.
And then for the hangar door, I don't really have an update on that. Nick, I don't know if you have anything you want to share. I know that last I heard, Robinson Construction was trying to purchase some steel before January.
Are you still working on all that?
Yeah, I have a question. Who gets the performance bond? Does Does Nick get that, or does that get sent to you, Mary?
If you want to send it to Nick and a scanned copy of it would be fine for us.
Okay, that's what I need to know. I forgot to bring it with me tonight, but I do have it.
No worries.
And I know Jay didn't get to sign the contract, so,
We're going to work on that, and John will be able to sign it
Oh.
in his, since he's out right now.
And then the only other item I have is the capital improvement plan. We had a meeting in November, and we are awaiting information from the FAA. They were supposed to have an internal meeting on the 17th, kind of discuss FY21 projects and what they needed from us for the 1836 potential for a project. So CIPs are due to NDOT February 1st, so I would assume that we will try to have a draft copy at least to you, but at the January 1st. And that's all my updates,
Okay,
unless anyone has any questions.
any questions for Mary?
no, sounds like that light thing is moving along, so
Yep.
that's good news.
Okay, well, the board just wishes you a Merry Christmas and all at CHA the same, so we thank you for all your hard work that you've put in this last year.
Yes, thank you all. I'm sorry I can't be there in person. We appreciate the last year and hope to continue moving forward with everything.
Yep. Okay,
Thank you.
all right, managers report.
Well, as far as fuel usage report, we are continuing just about on track with where we have been so far this year. My guess is we are going to end the year fairly close to 50% of our sales, our fuel sales from last year. Maybe a little bit better than 50%, but that's just going to depend on how busy this month has been. Typically, a normal year for us, November through, or Thanksgiving through the 1st is very quiet, not very much travel at all. This year has been a little bit different. We're getting a lot more general aviation traffic than we traditionally do. Some surrounding states with slightly more restrictive, not able to go to restaurants, things like that, have caused general aviation pilots to fly into Indiana, who it has fewer restrictions. Yesterday, was it Thursday? Thursday, I think we had 3 aircraft from Michigan. I think it was either Thursday or Friday. 3 aircraft from Michigan flew down just to go out to dinner here because they could meet in a restaurant versus up in Michigan where they can't. So we are seeing some increased traffic in ways that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
That's good.
Maybe
So-
you ought to send out some emails, things to
Yeah.
airports.
Just saying,
Yeah.
we're open for business,
Come on
yeah.
down.
We are seeing a couple last minute charter travel as well. So we've had a few more jets come through where people are not as comfortable flying commercial. They are going through and flying charter instead. So we've seen a couple of those, which we typically don't see. So I think we're going to wind up in that 50, maybe 55% of what we sold last year range.
Okay.
Outside of that, unless you guys have any questions, I don't have too much to report on. I want to get out of here quick so everybody can get on with their holiday season. I do have one contract that I need to bring to the board, though. I'm going to do my best to explain this, but it took me probably half an hour to figure out, talking to DBT, why we needed to do this. So DBT is our provider of services for the instrument landing system and the AWOS, the Automated Weather Observation System. They are the only game in town who is able to provide the routine monthly maintenance. And we are required by the FAA to have a signed contract showing that we have those services as part of our license to keep those on air and going. So have we typically sign a 2-year contract. It used to be with Vicela. Vicela has gotten out of that game. They provide the parts, but they don't provide the services. So DBT is the company that has provided us for the last 3 years with those services. The reason I got confused is that it's on even years, or I thought it was on odd years that we had to sign it, because we just signed one last August. The one for August, though, was backdated to 18 because we had paid for the service, but we didn't have the contract in place. So we had to backdate it last year. So this contract is giving us service from 2020 through 2022. It's just weird because the contract was due November 1, and that was why there was that confusion as to, did we really need to sign this or not? So all this is doing is just we've maintained our service. They've been here every month. They've been fixing our issues, but we just have to have this piece of paper and board approval on file for the FAA so that we can keep our stations up and going.
Is it 2-year or 3-year?
It is a 2-year contract. So it is service for 20, let me read it to you. This is a 2-year from the effective date, November 1st, 2020. So then we will have to sign it again in 2022.
Okay.
So this will put us on now we weren't going to have to worry about backdating and all that other stuff. This just gets us current. And then in 2 years, we'll do it again. Their price has not changed in the 4 years that we've had them. They've been great to work with. So I would recommend that we approve this. The annual fee is $18,478. So the contract total would be $36,956 over the 2
And we
years.
pay them on an annual basis?
Correct.
And then explain a little deeper about what this actually covers. You said instrument lighting system,
Landing,
landing lighting system,
Yep.
okay.
the ILS.
And so it's just,
All of your routine maintenance. So every month, there is checks that need to happen on the ILS and on the and then the AWAS is quarterly. And so that is the technician coming out to do those checks to make sure all of the radio waves are still within their parameters. I mean, some of them are tenths of a degree on oscilloscope in that sine wave. And so they just have to make sure that the transmitters are still broadcasting at the appropriate frequencies for our setup here. And that requires them to be on site and actually physically hook up to the equipment to see what's going on.
and I know that we had an issue with the ILS not working.
The ILS is technically working. It's the glide slope that is not working. We are still trying to get parts to fix it.
Do you have an update on those parts?
We have like 95% of the parts, but there is a specific, so these are radios that have literally a crystal in it that is specifically cut to our site's radio frequency, and those have to be custom made in the Netherlands, and the lead time on those is not short. So we are trying to get that radio crystal made and sent to us, but we are still working through that process right now.
So we had a crystal in there, but it's burned down.
So the entire glide slope that we have, I'll do my best to answer your questions without getting really technical. Our glide slope was only made for about 18 months. The FAA found a flaw in the AC to DC power converter, and when it switches that power, for whatever reason, there's a phase converter that will randomly flip 180 degrees, which moves the glide slope. If you're in the aircraft and it flips and the system didn't catch it, it would bring you in about a half a mile east of where the runway is. So you would break out of the clouds thinking you're on a short final for runway 27, and you would actually be on like a 1.5 2-mile final instead of only a half mile off the end of the runway. The system recognizes that, and it knows when that flip is made, and it actually just shuts off the glide slope. So if I was flying the approach in and that flip happened, there's a fail safe that would just turn it off, and there's a red flag that says the glide slope's not working. and then I, as a pilot, can go to a different approach and still come in and land. So the system it's redundantly safe. So I want that to be clear. It's not an unsafe system. But because of that flaw, they just stopped producing the system and went to the next iteration and never made parts to fix and retrofit our system. So when that broke, we're out of luck.
Until it's replaced, yeah.
So we would have to replace the entire glide slope to the tune of about $150,000. Or I had a buddy down in Indianapolis who's the airport manager at Indy Exec. They replaced their entire instrument landing system, and they agreed to donate their old glide slope to Warsaw until we can update our entire system. So we have their old system, but we don't have the crystal with our radio waves. It's not like you can just swap those two parts out. So our goal is to have this one installed once we get the proper crystal made. And that'll it'll be several $1,000s to have this installed and brought up to speed and everything else. But it will save us the cost of having to put in a new glide slope right now. We can save for that and then replace the entire instrument landing system in a couple years when we've got the money. Right now, we're putting it towards a lot of other projects. So this is a Band-Aid to try and get another 5 or 7 years out of our instrument landing system.
Okay. We can have it for that long from them?
They don't need it. They were going to recycle it because these systems are so old, nobody uses them anymore. And it's one of those things where our techs know what systems we have, and they know what spare parts we have, what spare parts other airports have. And it's one of those where airport managers trade parts kind of like money, because if I need something and you have it and I have something that you need, I have no problem, helping each other out. Because a lot of these boards you can send off to a specialty radio shop, and they're old enough that they are analog. You can cut out a bad resistor and solder in a new one, and they'll work for another 20 years. And it's one of those things where if it's not broke, don't touch it, because it'll probably work for the next 20 years. But the second you start poking it, it's going to come apart pretty quick. So
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
we're still hopeful that we can get the glide slope back up and running without having to replace the whole system. But that's just kind of where we stand right now.
Okay.
Has it been affecting our corporate people very much?
It hasn't to date, but winter time is coming quickly, and once we start hitting snow, we start getting some lower minimums. It will affect them to an extent, but we do have a GPS with LPV and vertical navigation. So instead of 203/4, they've got 300 a mile. So it's not quite as good of minimums as what they had with the ILS, but it's not too far off either.
Okay.
And that is something that Mary's team and I have discussed. Do we look at maybe adding another GPS approach to the airport? That is something that is not, it's a process, and it's something that you can do in a weekend, but
Right.
it is something that can be done. And is that something we should maybe be looking at to help the airport long-term? And that's a discussion that we're gonna have here over the next 2 to 3 months.
Have you thought about which runway?
Theoretically, we could do all four if we wanted to. I mean, GPS approach is a lot of math and
Right.
plotting it out on paper, and it's a lot more in depth than I'm making it sound right now. So don't think, we can do it real easy. It involves getting the FAA out to do flight checks. They actually will come out and fly the approaches to make sure that there's no obstructions or anything. So there's a lot that goes into it. You have to do GPS mapping, but it is definitely something that can be done.
Nick, is the future, you think FAA going to do away with land-based ILS and all GPS?
Mary, if you want to jump in here as well, you can.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be quite a few years. And the main reason is both a pro and a con for the ILS. You can't hack it. There's a reason the nation's nuclear codes are still on 8-inch floppy disks, and you have to be there with a physical key to turn a machine. No, you cannot. You can dial into our instrument landing system if you had a computer that is old enough to do so. I mean, they are keeping 30-year-old computers alive just to be able to remote into these things. But you can't change anything. You have to be physically on site, hooked up to the machine with oscilloscope, and then you have to turn these micro set screws a tenth of a degree one direction or the other to fix these radio waves. So if you're not on site, know where to go, how to hook up, and which screws to turn, you can't mess with the system.
I like that idea.
And that's a large reason as to why they are still so popular, and they're accurate. They are really, really, really accurate. The GPS is too, don't get me wrong, some of the new
Yeah,
GPS.
but they can be
special-
hacked real easily and they can be turned off completely pretty easily.
So there's pros and cons with both sides. And the other thing is, it seems that there's less weather interference with the ILS than there is with the GPS. If you have really, really nasty electrical storms, it's very rare, but there have been times where there's a little bit of interference there. And to play devil's advocate, if the airport lost power and our generators don't work on the ILS, then they're down and you're not gonna get them anyway. The weather's that bad, do you really want to be flying an instrument approach into the airport? Probably not. That's the other side of it. But there's pros and cons on both sides, and it's one of those where I don't think the ILS is going to go anywhere anytime soon, but that is a very valid point. How much do you keep putting into an old system that is slowly being phased out? I don't know. Any wisdom on that, Mary?
You hit it, yeah, it's gonna be years and years down the road before
Yeah.
anything changes with it.
Okay. I think we
You still need
scaled over the income statement. I don't think we did
Well,
that.
you still need you need.
Oh, I need approval, yeah, approval for the contract, if you
I
guys,
move we approve and sign the contract for DBT.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we sign that contract. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
John, we just need one signature on that. And outside of that, if you guys have, the income statement's just like it always is. The one thing I will say, I was talking with Linda, and if you guys are okay with it, I'm gonna play with this income statement over the next month or so. Yep, you just sign right there and I'll fill out the rest of it for you. I would like to play with the income statement and how we show you guys the money that we're bringing in, where it's going and all that kind of stuff. So you may see a different report moving into the new year just to clean it up a little bit, maybe make it flow a little bit better. But unless you have any specific questions, I was hoping to keep this short and sweet tonight so you guys could get home and be with family, so.
Okay. Any new business then? Okay. Anything for the order?
No
From the board?
questions. Yeah, no
Josh?
questions here.
I was just gonna commend you all on a job well done in an otherwise, what we call challenging year. I think you've been conservative financially, for the best interest of the airport, while also taking on a lot of big projects through, capitalizing on grants and, that's not going unnoticed, at least by, the people who are paying attention. So, just thank you all for your hard work and dedication, you especially, Nick, and I just appreciate it. And here's to a great 2021, so hope you all have a Merry Christmas.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, then we will call this meeting adjourned, and next meeting is January the 12th,
5:15,
5:15.
Happy New Year's.
Yep, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's to everybody.
Very good.
And then if you can